One before. Hi, everybody. My name is Shamananda, and this is Chef Whitney Aronoff, extraordinaire.
Hi.
And we're back for another live. It is Thursday. It must be Thursday because we're doing live again. So, how was your day today? What did you do?
Well, I love Thursdays because Thursdays I get to create all my clients' custom meal prep menus for the week ahead. So I create all those custom menus in the morning so my clients have a variety of health supportive dishes to choose from. And then later in the day I record podcasts for the High Vibration Living podcast.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And what did you end up talking about today?
So one of the episodes that I filmed today is with Dr. Lindsay Rangel, and this podcast will air, I believe, in March on the High Vibration Living podcast. And Dr. Lindsay is a vascular surgeon, so she specializes in reconnecting, and healing veins, arteries, and blood, which
Oh,
is
wow.
really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So how through was it is this the one that does it through frequency? Through frequency?
So, what's interesting about her is she's actually decided to step away from being a surgeon. So, she spent all those years going to medical school. Then, she spent over 5.5 years working at the Cleveland Clinic. And while she was a surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic, her dad became ill and ended up being a patient there. And it took quite a long time for him to recover and get out of there. And how she supported him during that time was through mindset, music, frequency, affirmations, all alternative therapies is what she found got him out of there. So she has left traditional practice as a surgeon and she's focused on frequency medicine. And she mentioned so many different types of frequency machines that are out there on the market right now that you can have in your home or go to a doctor's office to experience that can help heal people of any and all root cause diseases.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. I mean, that's incredible. That's just
Yeah.
really.
What she listed, I mean, I'm pretty down the rabbit hole with these modalities. She listed things I've never heard of. She talked about a variety of frequency machines I have heard of and what are really the strongest and most powerful versus the ones that you shouldn't waste your money on. And then once you get those frequency machines, how do you use it? How do you know what you need to heal? And so she talks about which ones are able to scan you and give you recommendations for the things that you should start healing, the frequencies that you should choose. But then she said at the end of the day, it comes back to your gut. And you, even after the machine tells you need to know and listen to yourself what you need and then adjust accordingly.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. Actually, Whitney, you sent me a photo today of was it a food collaboration? Could you clarify that for me? Because I mean that the packaging looked really cool, but what was it that you sent me?
Yeah, isn't the packaging fantastic?
Oh yeah.
So beautiful. The company's called Eat in Good Company. So Eat in Good Company is based in LA and San Diego. And what they do is they partner with chefs and restaurants to help you experience high quality, delicious meals at home in a sustainable way.
Wow.
So they partner every month with 9 chefs or restaurants, and those chefs and restaurants pick a specialty dish. And that is packaged in a reusable stainless steel container. It's delivered right to your home. You get to enjoy it as you like. And then within 60 days, you will have Eat in Good Company come and pick up that reusable container. Or if you order more dishes next month, you'll just switch out your old containers with the new fresh meals that you get. And I had the pleasure of partnering with Eat in Good Company to share my Starseed Kitchen health supportive Ayurvedic kitchery this month. Since it's January, they wanted a health supportive meal on the menu. So now people in Los Angeles and San Diego can try my food at home.
How interesting. And you know, it actually I was thinking about this today. When it comes to because you're the expert on food preparation and how to make things as holistic and as health conscious as possible. And one of the things I was thinking about today is that even the instruments that you use is really important in food preparation when it comes to holistic health. Maybe you could extrapolate on that.
Yeah, so the quality of your pots and pans, um, and all the tools that you use in your kitchen, as well as obviously using real ingredients and then bringing the proper attitude into the space as well, because your mood goes into your food, and your food is your mood.
Yeah, exactly. So what types of instruments should people purchase then, or without giving brands or anything away? But what are they looking for if they're looking for something that's going to keep them as healthy as possible when they cook?
Are we looking at like pots and pans and your basic tools to help prepare
Yeah,
your food?
exactly.
Yeah, it's really simple. People don't need to go out and buy 50 million things. They just need to buy a few quality items. So, number one, your cutting board should be made from wood. If your cutting board is made from plastic, then you're getting microplastic in your food. So, the great thing is if you buy a wood cutting board, it's going to last a whole lot longer. So, number one, I would say a cutting board. Number two is just making sure that you have a pot to boil water that's stainless steel or clay or non reactive ceramic. And that you also need a skillet, and that skillet should be cast iron, clay, or ceramic, or stainless steel.
Very good. Very good. So some of my clients right now have been battling these hormone issues. And I know that eating the right kinds of foods can actually really support in keeping you balanced. And I was wondering if there was anything that you knew of as far as what they could consume or what kind of meals that they could prepare that might actually support with hormone balance specifically.
Well, the number one thing they need to do is detox their kitchen. So, the first and foremost for hormone health is they need to get rid of the nonstick pots and pans, because that is putting chemicals into their food that is affecting their hormones.
Ah,
So, number one, it's what you're cooking your food in is going to affect either raise or lower your estrogen and testosterone levels. Two, it's what soap are you using to clean your pots and pans? What are the chemicals you're using to clean your kitchen? If it's a dyed blue liquid or a generic name brand chemical liquid that you're cleaning your pots and pans with, that you're putting in the dishwasher, that's also going to affect your hormone health. You're breathing in those chemical scents that are going to disrupt your hormone levels. It's going on your skin. It's, you know, in some cases being absorbed by your pots and pans and your different containers that you're washing. So you need to detox your kitchen of chemicals. And then you can focus on adding real food into your life. Often it's not what you should add, it's what you can take away. So again, keep looking at your food. If you're microwaving food, that's going to affect your hormone levels. If you're eating processed food you know from bags and plastic containers, that's going to affect your hormone levels, because the plastics affect your hormones. So sometimes it's what you need to take out of your diet and lifestyle, not what you need to put in. Once you clear up all those little things, then you can start adding in, sweet potatoes and yams, great for balancing hormones, fresh herbs, great for balancing your health and hormones and digestive system. You know, you can start looking at that, but taking in minerals. So having a little lemon juice in your water with a little sea salt and a little cream of tartar, that's going to provide like a balanced electrolyte shot. That's going to help your hormones. So there's a lot of things you can add, but the number one thing I would say is look at what's in your kitchen and remove everything toxic. And that should be the greatest thing to support your hormones.
and that really supports with everything. It supports with overall health and wellness. And if you're looking to get deeper into spirituality and really connect to that part of yourself, it is imperative for you to be able to extract all of those types of things from your life immediately, because it stands in the way from you connecting to that higher part of yourself. So,
It stands in the way from you having a cleared pineal gland, a clear, third eye, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the purity. So if you're trying to reach the purest part of yourself, the best way to do that is by being in the purest state. So if you're putting a lot of chemicals in your body, if you're if and around your body, if cleaning products, inauthentic scents, that kind of thing, then you're really going to be creating those barriers between you and your spiritual body. It's just that part of you is the purest part of you. It's just that simple. So the best way to connect with that and see eye to eye with it is becoming pure yourself in
What
every way.
do you see in your clients causing their pineal gland to calcify?
Chemicals a lot of the time. Sometimes it has to do with just fear. Maybe they had an experience when they were. There's so many different reasons why it happens, but I would say the most common would be just being subject, eating a lot of junk, chemicals, drugs, that type of thing. Different ways that people abuse themselves on purpose. Some people don't know though that eating junk food, honestly, they have that's how they were raised. They don't know that it's bad for them. They just don't know.
No, they don't know. I remember right after college, I went over to a friend's house for dinner, one of my good guy friends, and he opened a can of fruit and was going to serve canned fruit to me as dessert.
Oh.
And he thought it was perfectly normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Southern California. There's fresh fruit year round. Why would I ever eat a canned fruit?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, he just didn't know. He thought that's how you eat.
Yeah. And
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 it's not. Just for anyone listening, canned food is for emergencies. Look at the history of why canned food was created. It was created to feed soldiers in the middle of nowhere during war. It was never meant to nourish you. It was never meant to be a staple in your diet.
well, fresh is always going to be the best anyway. But I remember, I'm not going to say any names here or anything. I never do. But you and I went to a retreat once, and the food that they served there, without mentioning where we went or anything like that, just the food that they served there, they actually thought that the food was healthy. They really did. They thought that they were serving healthy meals, and they were very very bad for you actually. And it was very surprising to see how what people's concept of healthy and unhealthy is. And I think it really does fluctuate depending on what area of the world you're in. Or this was in America, but it's just I don't think people truly understand what health is when it comes to food. A lot of the time they have the idea based upon their region or what they were taught by their parents or what they're surrounded with, but it's not very common, I think, that people actually truly know what healthy eating and living is. What do you think?
So I'll give everyone who's listening an example of something that this spiritual retreat served that they thought was healthy, and how I would take that item and actually make it healthy if I was to serve it to a group of people at a spiritual retreat. So one of the items that they served is something that's traditionally called cowboy caviar, and that is beans and corn and maybe one other item added to it. So they opened up cans and threw down black beans. They opened up bags of frozen corn, threw that down, and then I can't remember if they added red bell pepper or sliced tomatoes to it. But that's the gist. They're serving a canned bean and a frozen corn and calling that extremely healthy and nourishing, high vibrational, and great for your conscience or consciousness. If I was to serve that meal for a group of people at a health supportive spiritual retreat, I would soak my black beans overnight and then simmer them on the stove with a bay leaf or kombu. I'd make the beans from scratch. I If corn was in season, I would buy corn. I would pan sear the corn, roast the corn. You're taking the corn right off the cob and then mixing the two together. You'd add olive oil, not corn oil or vegetable oil, to the mixture. You would add real salt, such as Redmond real salt, not iodized or Morton salt. Again, look at those ingredients, you'll see why. You would add some sort of fresh cracked pepper, and then you would use an organic tomato or organic red bell pepper to add some color and crunch in there, because bell peppers and tomatoes are one of the top 10 most heavily pesticide sprayed foods. So when you eat them, those are the ones where you can't cut corners. You have to go organic. Otherwise, you're just getting a ball of pesticides, and that's not supportive for anything that you're trying to activate on a retreat. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so if people want context on what we're talking about, like that's what I'm talking about. Another thing that they served was they went to Costco and bought a bunch of pre-done hard-boiled eggs in individual plastic Kirkland containers. Nobody knows where that egg's from. No one knows how long ago those hard-boiled eggs were made. So if those hard-boiled eggs already peeled are more than 3 days old, then there has to be chemicals on that hard-boiled egg in order to stop it from fermenting and going bad.
Mm-hmm.
you know and again, your food is only as good as your food ate. So when you're eating any sort of animal proteins, your food is only as good as what that animal consumed. So that's why it's important to know the quality of the hard-boiled egg that you're getting, because you're getting whatever feed that chicken was given. Hopefully that chicken got to graze wildly on the land that it lived on, or it was given real food scraps. But in most cases, it's given genetically modified soy, corn, and grain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what it's necessarily meant to eat. And it's not what you deserve to eat.
Right. Right. And, you know, it's also important to eat at certain times of the day, or I mean, some people fast until a certain time and then they feel better. They feel like their their digestion is better. And I just wanted to hear your insights on how you feel about that. I know that if you don't eat for a certain amount of time, your body, instead of digesting the food and focusing on digesting the food, actually has a chance to repair the insides of you. So intermittent fasting is really great for that. But is there an ideal time of day to eat, or is it? I know it depends on the person and the situation, but what are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious about what you think about meal times.
So I think everyone needs to listen to their body.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. And everyone gets hungry at a different time. Everybody's different. Everyone's at a different stage in their life. So your appetite is different. If I speak about women, women's appetites are different at different ages, depending on whether they're going to be, you know, if their bodies are getting ready to bear children, or if they're at the end of that phase in their life and they're not going to be bearing any more children and they're going into menopause. Your appetite levels are different. Your ability to digest is different. The amount of energy you need to consume in order to function in the day is different. So you really have to just tap in and listen to when you're hungry and eat when you're hungry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then obviously, eating an earlier dinner, hands down, is always better than eating late at night, because if you want to get a great night's sleep, you need to give your body some time to digest. All the other fasting information that's out there, you got to remember, this is new information. This is new diet culture. This hasn't necessarily been how people have been eating forever.
Right.
If it works for you, then great. But if it doesn't, don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
all these concepts aren't meant for everybody. You got to listen to your stomach and decide what works for you.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't know anyone that eats a square 3 meals a day like our grandparents did. It just doesn't happen that way anymore, I don't think. I
I
mean,
do.
do you really?
Yeah, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow. You're
Yeah,
the very first one. That's amazing. That's really incredible. I just, there's no one else in my life that I know that does that. But
that's okay. I
yeah,
mean,
you really do. You eat three
all my
meals a
family,
day. You
yeah,
eat
all my
three
family eat
meals.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah.
Wow. You're the very first one. That's kind of exciting. So walk me through your typical day of what you like to eat, because I know you eat extremely healthy, and I'd like people to understand what extremely healthy looks like.
Well, my breakfast's always different. So my breakfast changes every few weeks because I really find what I eat changes with the season when it comes to breakfast.
Okay.
Ideally, I like first thing in the water to have a little lemon in my water, and then I like to have a piece of fruit, and then I like to have something more concrete, and that changes all the time. That could be one or two hard boiled eggs with a little bit of brown rice, some cilantro, and some kimchi. It could be oat groats. It could be um, some sort of paleo banana muffin that I made. It could be like a little breakfast hash with like some homemade bison sausage, sauteed kale, and some sweet potato. Like it totally varies and it definitely goes with the season. Hey, sometimes there's days where I just want a green juice and I just get a 32-ounce green juice or I make it myself.
Mm-hmm.
It changes all the time. What seems to be consistent for me and what makes me feel great is I love a salad with a piece of protein for
Uh,
lunch, salad with a piece of protein for lunch, and then dinner, a piece of protein, a grounding starch, and a steamed vegetable. So that could be like one of my paleo turkey meatballs, or a bison meatball, or a beef meatball, or, a small little piece of steak. And then a steamed vegetable like broccolini, broccoli, steamed kale, steamed chard, and then something that's more grounding. So, like a sweet potato, a root vegetable, or rice or quinoa, something along that lines. Super simple.
yeah, yeah. So Whitney and I went to Ireland together, and one of the things that I noticed that she would do as a snack is she would take potatoes with her. She would just bring potatoes. She would just bring potatoes and eat them as snacks. That was her snack. She would just pull it right out of her purse and eat this potato. It was the most awesome thing. Was it Ireland? Or no. That was the other trip we went on.
You mean sweet potatoes?
Sweet potato. Yeah, sweet
Yeah,
potatoes.
just for reference, people, so you don't think I'm pulling out raw potatoes and gnawing on them. We were staying at like an Airbnb or a place where we had our own kitchen, and so I would roast Japanese yams, and so I would just have like a half of a Japanese yam, um, or I would have some carrots and celery. But yeah, usually when I'm on the go, I have something like that, or like a hard boiled egg.
Yeah. No, but it's good. It's simple ingredients, and I feel like the more simple ingredients are the healthiest, honestly.
Absolutely, it doesn't need to be complicated at all.
No, I think they're really good for you. And and then it takes away from reading a bunch of labels, and it's just people just they feel better when they eat really simple foods. It's that simple.
Yeah,
So,
ideally, like I love days that I get to work from home and, you know, s- it's not all the time, but sometimes I need an afternoon snack. And my favorite afternoon snack is a little bone broth.
oh yeah.
But as a chef, it gets so hot in the kitchen, no matter the time of year. I can't have bone broth as an afternoon snack because I'm already sweating. It heats me up too much. So it's usually only something I can snack on when I'm working at home.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and no, it's so funny. I guess I did make it sound like you were just eating raw potatoes. No, I meant cooked potatoes. But yeah, but I loved the fact that you were snacking on them. I thought it was amazing.
Japanese yams because I don't like I could never eat a cold cooked potato. Um they're dry and gross. You have to have potatoes warm, but Japanese yams and sweet potatoes because there's a little bit more sugar naturally in the root. They are delicious when they're cold and they're actually better for your energy levels from a glycemic index point of view. For some reason, when the sweet potato or yam has cooled down, it doesn't create the sugar spikes that it does when it's hot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very much so. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit because a lot of the time with these podcasts, I like to talk about the things that have come up in different sessions that I've had with clients all week long.
Yeah.
And for those of you that have never hopped onto one of these podcasts, one of these YouTube lives, we we both, Whitney and I both work with different types of clients, and we reside out in Orange County area, kind of California. And Whitney works with a bunch of high profile people with that she cooks for, but more than that, she's an entrepreneur, and she's creating her own products, and she's signed to a podcast company, Cloud 10, which is really amazing, and she has a lot of things going on, and so do I, and Whitney and I actually are planning on creating retreats together within the next little while here, where, with her amazing culinary skills and knowledge, because if I'm going to be supporting people in a healing environment, I want to make sure that the food is right, at these retreats, and she's going to make sure that it happens just the way it's supposed to be, so that everyone can have an optimal experience. It really does make a huge difference. But anyway, so I work with all kinds of people. I work with people who are people who just stopped being homeless. I've worked with, I work with housewives. I work with students. I work with people that work at grocery stores. And then, I work with people who own a bunch of companies. I work with the top lawyers in the nation. I work with celebrities of all kinds, politicians, A-listers, actors, singers, rappers, professional athletes, you name it, I've worked with them. And all the way across the board, basically, everyone is just a person, and they all have their own issues. And a lot of the time, these issues are very much the same. The only thing that changes is just the environment that they're in. But everyone is human, and they all have very human problems. So one of the things that has come up quite a bit this week has to do with control, and how people are trying to over control their environment and over control the people around them. Now, I know that Whitney, I know you're really well versed in the people around you being controlling, and the different types of ways that they are. And I just kind of wanted to get your insights as far as what you think about some of the things I'm going to say here. But why do you think people have the need to control?
Because they don't feel in control.
Right.
Of their personal life.
Yeah, exactly. So when people don't feel like they're in control, they have this tendency to try to control the outside environment in order for them to feel safe, right? So, and it could look a number of different ways. Maybe they just really need to be right, because if they're right about whatever they're talking about, no matter how ridiculous they sound, then their world is solid and they're okay. But in other ways,
it makes up for the other times in their life where they don't have control, where someone's telling them that they're wrong.
Right.
So exactly. they boomerang the complete other direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of the time, and these are people in all kinds of walks of life. So these are people with a lot of power. These are people that feel like they don't have any power, or they're powerless. But either way, it doesn't seem to matter what area that we're talking in. It doesn't matter if I'm working with somebody that's, in corporate, or someone that's, someone that just won a Grammy. It doesn't matter. It's all, at the end of the day, it's about control. Like, for a lot of them, it's about control. How can I control the outside because I'm feeling like I'm out of control on the inside?
Yeah.
And it's really very sad. But a lot of the time, these people don't even know that they're being this way, and they just really feel like they're the type that will point the finger, and it's everyone else's fault. So But and it's like, I know people in psychology that they absolutely refuse to look at themselves. It's kind of like you really get to, if you're going to go find somebody that's going to support you with your consciousness, you got to be really, really careful with who you align yourself with. Meaning your teacher or whoever is supporting you with your consciousness, be it a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist or psychologist, if they're not walking the walk in their own life and they're not actually taking in their own advice or teaching, then chances are you should stay the heck away from them. So, uh, and that's just the truth. It's just there's no good reason why you should align yourself with somebody that isn't actually doing the things that they're preaching. It clearly doesn't work because it's not working for them. So align yourself with somebody that actually knows what they're doing. So what are your thoughts?
I agree. I also think if anyone's looking for a counselor, a therapist, a spiritual teacher, you need to find someone that also is willing to push back at you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just agreeable. I mean, you need to find someone obviously that will listen. You need to tell your story. You need to get it out. That's cathartic, and sometimes people go to therapy because they don't have somebody to talk to. But I believe you also need someone that's going to push back on you and call you out and help and teach you, not just listen to you and teach you coping mechanisms, but um, help you change your mindset or change behavior patterns that aren't serving you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, and someone that's able to actually recognize what those behaviors are within you because they've already conquered it within themselves, right? So it's like, and if they haven't done the work, if they haven't arrived, it's the same with psychics. Okay, so if and I don't know about any of you guys, but I've definitely been to my share of psychics, and there's some really great ones out there, and there's some really, really bad ones out there. And more often than not, one of the more common things that happens in my practice, way too often, is that somebody will walk in the door and they'll say, "The psychic said," and then it's created this huge issue in their lives because the psychic told them something, they believed it, and now they're doing their best to get rid of it in their own lives. So as an example, the psychic said that I was cursed. The psychic said that, something's eating me alive, that I'm going to die, or I have this, it's just, it can't happen anymore. These people often tell you these things because they want you to spend more money, and they don't know what they're talking about a lot of the time. So it is a way to, there are people out there that are not willing to work on their consciousness, and sometimes they would rather believe that they're cursed than actually face the fact that they're creating what's happening in their lives. And it's bad for people like me, for psychics, to do things like this because it gives all people who are doing holistic work a bad rap, and it's not okay, and it needs to stop. So if you've ever had a psychic who said, "Hey, well, you're cursed, your I don't know, your ancestry is cursed, your great great grandmother, this happened to her, and then and ever since your bloodline's been poisoned, and all these bad things are going to happen," and hey, maybe you're one of those people that actually has a problem running in your family. Maybe all the women can't seem to find a husband, and they only have a child out of wedlock or something like that. And I've seen that happen. And and sometimes in those cases, there are things to really look at there, but it just depends. But sometimes the belief of a curse is enough to keep the curse going. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we do about that? So I've had a ton of people come through over the years saying this very same thing. And a lot of the time I have to be the bad guy and say, okay, I don't think you're cursed. I think this is what's going on, and I get to point out exactly why they're creating what they're creating in their life.
Mm.
And sadly, sometimes people get upset and sometimes people are really grateful, but a lot of the time it's the people who don't want to do the work that are the ones that are upset because they would rather believe the story than do the work. So,
Is the curse really self-sabotaging behavior?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so is it just them being fearful of moving forward in their life?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're so afraid about what they created in their own lives that they are not willing to look at it, and they would rather create a story or believe in a story about how their whole life is ruined because somebody put a curse on them. And this person is a lot of the time is just a mystery. Like we have no idea who it was, but my bloodline is cursed or I am cursed. And it's not, I got to tell you, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's not viable. It's not true. I'm not saying there isn't stuff out there that can create these things. All right, I'm not. I definitely have seen plenty of real magic out there. Yes, sure, but but that doesn't mean that every single person that walks through the door, just because a psychic told them they're cursed, it doesn't mean that they're a victim of that.
Yeah.
Most of the time it has to do with just not wanting to look at themselves, and there is not enough discernment in spirituality. Too many people will take a story and an illusion and run with it, and that's a real problem. So you get to be really discerning when you not only meet up with some sort of spiritual coach, and if they're talking a lot of floof like the universe and blah blah blah, you can't, it's not going to necessarily support you. A lot of the time they talk floof because they don't have anything concrete, and they want to wow you with BS in order to keep you around because you're a paycheck. So I don't follow that in my practice. I can't. I would rather people get what they need and go. And I'd love to see them come back. But, if it's a one-hit wonder and they are only going to see me once, I want to make sure they have everything they need in that one moment so they're set up to win the best I can. So it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of people that manipulate in my industry, and it's a big deal. So, and I know that you've experienced some of that yourself, Whitney.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've gone to a lot of people who have said negative things to me, or, you know, did a really good job of convincing me of things that weren't true. Um, and, you know,
And
I
it's
think
humiliating.
about it every now and then, and I'm disappointed by how easily I was manipulated. But at least I learned and, moved on.
Absolutely. And that's the only way you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having faith in what somebody is saying. It's not even that. It's just this industry is very difficult because there's so many people out there just to make a quick buck. In fact, I knew of one girl who decided, and I never say names, I won't, but she started some sort of YouTube channel where or was it TikToks, where she was, it might have been TikToks, where she was, no, it was YouTube, where she was talking about this. She was pretending like she was some sort of spiritual teacher because she was an actress and she wanted to practice, and she thought that that would be a really great way to get popular. And people started following her, and the stuff that she was saying, it wasn't real. I mean, it wasn't good information. In fact, it was dangerous the way she was saying everything and what she was saying. And unfortunately, when people don't really know and they're looking for support, then what are they going to find? If they're going to find someone like that and it makes sense to them, then, and they go down that garden path, then unfortunately they're going to be led astray. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to BS people in this industry. And it's because the spirituality is so intangible. It's not like the physical body where it's obvious. We can touch it. We can smell it. We know it's there. It's not like the mental and emotional body where we know we have a consciousness. We know we're thinking and we can have a conversation. It's the spiritual body. It's intangible. And people take advantage because, it's like, well, we can make it up into anything. We're storytellers. It's not right. It's not okay. How is that going to empower people? I guess it just depends on the agenda of the human race or whoever's doing it. So,
Well, people get to learn discernment and they get to take personal responsibility.
They do. They do. They absolutely do. But anyway, I'm going to take a break from asking you questions. You can ask me some. I'm ready. Here I am. Let me just get ready here. There we go. I'm ready now.
So, what are you really into learning right now? Is there anything that has you super curious that you're intrigued with in the health, wellness, spiritual life space?
You know, it always fluctuates because I'm constantly trying to consume information. And so, one of the things that has been intriguing to me is just how different types of amino acids that are missing from people's blood who have cancer, if they are duplicated and replaced, how that can actually cure their cancer without toxins or, you know, just where they can just there. I'm talking about Dr. I believe his name is Berlinsky, or it's Berinsky, out in Texas, and he's only allowed to operate out of Texas as an example. And I watched his documentary about how he was, a bunch of people tried to shut him down. Anyway, the point is that what was really cool is that people are finding non-toxic ways to heal really big problems for humans. And I think that's definitely something that we get to advocate for and be strong. As a human race, we get to stand up and say, "Yeah, I want to protect my body. It's all I have in this lifetime." Because once you go towards the toxic stuff, unfortunately, sometimes it's a one-way. It's a dead end. Like you go down that road and you can't come back from that. So, what I'm interested in right now has to do with just what are the different types of ways we can heal the body that's non-toxic, that's different, and we're thinking outside of the box, right? Kind of what you were talking about before with this doctor and with your last podcast. What
Do you
was?
want,
Yeah,
yeah, do you want me to say some of the frequency machines that are out there?
yeah.
So I'm going to just list off a bunch of different modalities and machines that are out there right now in the United States that we can all get our hands on to use to heal ourselves, or to use to find the root cause without using a doctor's manipulation, or um, it can also remove the ability for the doctor just to make an error in how they're diagnosing you, because um, they're using their own bias. So here are a bunch of different things that are out there right now that can support you: a Rife machine, a Healy frequency machine, an amp coil, a Tesla biocoil, phototherapy, stem cell patches, which allow you to generate more stem cells, that completely different from getting stem cell injections. But I did learn that you really have to leave the country to get good stem cell injections, that the government, and this is from a doctor and a surgeon, the government with the current medical system has set up a way for nobody in the United States to get high quality stem cells. So you have to leave the country in order to get a high quality stem cell injection. I'm going to keep going. Hyperbaric oxygen chambers. RRT therapy, rapid resolution therapy. The science of connecting with the heart, also known as heart math.
I've heard of a lot of these for sure. Have you tried
Yeah.
any of these? Have you tried any?
I have been wanting to try the Rife machine, the healing machine, the amp coil, and the stem cell patches, and the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I just haven't, because either they're too expensive, or I don't know anyone that has one for me to try before I buy. So, for instance, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber session costs $1,000. After talking to this doctor today, you have to go 3 days in a row to get the benefits, not once a month, 3 days in a row.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
that's going to be $3,000.
yeah, that's way too much for most people.
Yeah. The Healy frequency machine is much more reasonable. But again, you're going to have to purchase the machine and then start practicing in your home. There's no place to really go and test it for yourself. My physical therapist has a Rife machine. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. I've wanted to use the amp coil. Again, that's like a $2,000 to $3,000 investment with the amp coil.
But what is
Um,
it? What is the amp coil? What does it do?
so an amp coil and a Healy and a Rife machine and a Tesla coil, these four different machines are basically all the same. They're all, if you have a health condition, whether it's a rash on your arm, candida, parasites, a tumor, whatever it is, this is finding the frequency of that dis-ease and raising the frequency so it dissipates. And then raising your overall frequency so none of that can survive in your body anymore.
Okay,
So,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh,
Okay,
I was going to say another way that a doctor has explained it to me is, let's say you're driving down the road and your car goes off road, whatever just went off the road that veered to the wrong way, that's like any health issue that you have. And you send a frequency to your body to get back on the road.
so what you're saying is these doctors have figured out the frequency of what the soul, and they've decided to, or they've been able to reproduce that in a way that is of the highest health benefit.
Yes. So all these frequency machines are doing the same thing. There's another practice called healing with numbers. Are you familiar with healing with numbers?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So I have the healing with numbers book. So I think I've brought it to you.
Hmm.
And so basically, you can find a number, a code, and usually I think they're 7 digits long that match everything in the body, every organ, you know, your veins, your vascular system, and then every sort of dis-ease we can think of a name. And you can say this code over and over again, um, draw the code and put it on your body. And there's a certain way to use these codes over a number of days or a number of weeks or a number of months that can then heal the body. So it's using a code, it's using mathematics, a frequency with the body to heal it. Um, what's interesting about the four machines that I mentioned is they all have different strengths. So they're doing the same sort of frequency medicine, but some of the machines are actually stronger than others. And um, some have the ability to scan your body and figure out what you need to work on first, where others you just have to guess and listen to your gut and decide for yourself what you need to start on first.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, and then there's the, is it the ion machine, or it's like the ionation, is it the ionation machine? I'm trying to remember what it's called.
It's the foot cell ion detox bath.
Oh, that one, yes. That one is definitely one that is really, it's kind of cool, that we've used, that you have and I have. Uh yeah, tell me about it.
All right, is that what you're referring to, or are you referring to something else?
I'm referring to, it's like a thing that you sit in, It's like and it's this therapy that you go through, that, and you can actually put tubes into your orifices, actually, so you can get, if you're having cancer on rectally, or if you're having it internally in some way, that it'll get right up in there, and it'll begin to cleanse that out for you. But
You're talking about ozone therapy?
well, yes, ozone therapy. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I've done that a couple times, and it
Yeah. So
is actually very beneficial.
yeah, I've done the ozone. Women can take it in two way, or we can all take it in multiple ways. You can take it in through your ears, through your nose, through your vagina, or through
Your
your
rectum?
butt.
Yeah.
Yes, your rectum. Yeah. So there's multiple ways that you can take it in, and then each way you take it in supports a different part of you. It's fascinating. But It's so hard to get the oxygen.
Right. It is. It is. But the people that have these machines are usually people that either. Well, actually, I do know somebody out in my neighborhood that owns one in her house.
Well,
She
I
has
own the
one in
machine.
her house.
I own the machine, but I need a prescription for oxygen, and I've been asking tons of people for a prescription of oxygen. I'm actually going to a new biological dentist tomorrow, and I'm hoping that maybe they can write me a prescription for oxygen.
What's a biological dentist?
Yeah, so a biological dentist typically is one that understands that every tooth is connected to an organ, because it is.
Really?
And then it's not using chemicals in order to keep your oral health healthy. So it's not using fluoride, it's not using heavy metals, it's avoiding chemicals and understanding the holistic importance of the mouth. It's yeah, so I'm going to a new dentist because all the biological dentists I have tried here in Orange County um, have not had a practice that subscribes to their name.
I see. Okay, cool. So you did a little research and you found another one, and
Yeah, so I'm trying one up in Los Angeles. I'm just getting a teeth cleaning. Like I'm simply looking for a teeth cleaning, someone that's not using fluoride, someone that's ideally having ozonated water when I walk in, so I can clean out my mouth with the ozonated water, have a wonderful teeth cleaning, toxic free, and yeah, someone can support me with just keeping it nice, pretty, and healthy because, you know, every part of our body needs to be in tip top shape. I want to be in this machine for like 140 years. So I need to treat it like it's a machine that I want to be in for 140 years, right?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, and that actually opens the floor up to the different types of practitioners that you could see that could support you along with that. I mean, your doctors, if there are holistic doctors out there that I actually have one where she has the ability, or and she does suggest either completely the holistic route, and she gives you the option of taking that one if you want, or a hybrid between that and medication, or she said, or you can take meds. It's really up to you, but these are your all of your options. So if you really wanted to go completely holistic, you could. If you're not that concerned and you're okay with mixing in a little bit of modern medicine, then you can. But she gives you the options and the best options to do anything you want, which is really nice because a lot of the time you'll go to your doctor and you'll have a problem and it'll be about treating the symptom and not really solving the problem, where she's trying to solve the problem and she's giving you viable options to do so. So doctors in that way, just selecting your doctor with your health in mind is very important. Ironically, doctor with your health in mind, you would think that that would go hand in hand, but it doesn't always necessarily do so. So there's that, there's teeth, there's and then you were doing lymphatic massage too, and I don't think many people actually even know what a lymphatic massage is. So what was your experience with it?
So I actually did consistent lymphatic massage starting in I think 2016, 2017. So for about 5, 6 years, I went consistently to the same person. Um, I did it before it became a trend. If you go on Instagram now, it's a trend to do lymphatic massage. When I started doing it, it was like underground. No one had heard about it. And you actually have to go weekly because you have to train the lymphatic system to start draining again. So most people's lymphatic systems aren't draining well, which is why they have a lot of inflammation or are holding on to excess fluid. So you have to train it to release again. So you have to start going weekly. And so I think for 3 years I went weekly, and then I backed off and started just going every other week. And the type of lymphatic massage I went to, which was really unique, is you actually drain on the table. So the toxins are actually coming out of your armpits, of your thighs, of your hips, under your breasts. So the areas where the lymphatic drainage naturally drains, what they're doing is and this is a very particular type of lymphatic massage. You'll find all different types out there, but this practitioner used a blend of coconut oil and sesame oil. You warm the oil, and then he did massage with that oil, but it's a way he activated and opened up the body. So very much how you work. You before you start working on someone, you activate and open up the body
Hmm.
and prepare it to receive energy
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
prepare it for the session. This lymphatic massage therapist does the same thing. He starts at the head and it opens up my lymphatic system, and then he goes in and starts draining the body.
Okay, so for people that don't know what a lymphatic system is or what it does, could you explain it? Because there's some people out there that what's a lymphatic system?
Yeah, so a lymphatic system is the fluid in your body, and it moves the fluid in your body, and ideally moves the fluid that needs to leave, moves it out.
Absolutely. So there's different areas in your body that they're where your lymph nodes are, and 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 different fluid will store in these areas. So under your armpits, under your breast, just like Whitney had described a minute ago. And if you're inflamed, so if there's inflammation in your body, sometimes these areas they'll swell and the fluid will get caught and it won't drain properly. And sometimes a little bit of an infection can build up over time if it's not draining, because it's meant to continue to move. And so for those people who have, well, they struggle with inflammation, doing something about moving the lymphatic system is actually really important. So sometimes Whitney does dry brushing. So and you
Mhm.
said before that it really helps you to get the lymphs moving, to take that.
I do.
Yeah.
I do it. I would say I do it at least 3 times a week, just first thing in the morning when I get up, when I'm changing out of my pajamas into what I'm going to wear for the day. I find another thing that helps get the lymphatic fluid moving in the face, and I did it this morning, and it's so refreshing, is I did oil pulling. Um, and that's a great way just to get the lymph flowing underneath the neck, down the neck, around the face. It also just cleans out the gums and the mouth of toxins. It's a great way to activate the upper body in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you can, what kind of oils do you use to do the pulling again? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I use skinny coconut oil. So I use a triple filtered, organic, wild harvested coconut oil, because high quality coconut oil doesn't have a scent. It doesn't reek coconut. So when you open up a jar of coconut, if it reeks that artificial coconut smell, it's a low quality, highly processed oil. So I use my skinny coconut oil. It is kind of scentless and tasteless. Sometimes I use the version that has a little peppermint oil in it, which is really nice in the morning. That's what I like using. But of course, in the wintertime, Ayurveda really loves suggesting and supporting with sesame oil. So some people are really into using sesame oil, or they'll use a little sesame oil or coconut oil with a little cinnamon essential oil, because it's winter time, so you want to warm the body. And in the summertime, you want to use cooling tools to cool the body, and that would be the peppermint essential oil or coconut oil.
And how do you feel like it's benefited you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've had a previous biological dentist I went to. I had a great dental hygienist. And she told me a number of times that she thought I had such great teeth and such white teeth because I was a regular oil puller. She
Really?
thought yeah, she thought it was doing wonders. When I used to do oil pulling like 5 days a week, people used to comment all the time on how incredibly beautiful and white my teeth were.
I was actually just thinking how white and incredibly white your teeth are. Well,
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah, I was looking at your teeth going, wow, those are really white.
Oh
And
my gosh, I need a teeth cleaning and I need an oil pull more often. They aren't where they used to be, but I haven't whitened my teeth in many years. So I
wow.
think the oil pulling works. But the reason I do the oil pulling It's like it's the best feeling. Like I did it this morning and I'll oh, when you do it, it feels so good. It's like a weight is lifted off of you because it's just pulling toxins out of your mouth, out of your tongue, out of your gums, and it lightens everything up.
So if I were to do it for the first time, I would melt. I would melt if it was, or just make sure that it was liquid. Let's say I wanted to
Yeah.
use coconut oil, and I would just put the coconut, or I could just put chunks of coconut oil if they're not melted, and it would probably melt in my mouth, and then I would just wait. How would I do it?
So coconut oil melts at 73, 72 degrees. So if you're in your home and it's over 72 degrees, coconut oil will naturally melt in the jar. If it's under 72 degrees, it'll harden in the jar. It doesn't really matter either way. I'm telling you this because if your body's 98 degrees, the moment you put a scoop of coconut oil in your mouth, it's going to immediately melt.
Got it. Okay.
So all you do is scoop a little bit of coconut oil out of the jar and put it right into your mouth. Ideally, you want to use a wood spoon, not a metal spoon. The metal spoon will react with the oil over time, and your jar of coconut oil will go rancid faster. So you want to use a wooden spoon, and you just put a little bit of your mouth in your mouth. It will immediately start melting, and you just whisk it around your mouth like it's mouthwash. And when you're first starting, you just want to set your timer for 5 minutes. And then you want to work up to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then 20 minutes. Ideally, you're always doing it 20 minutes. But if you can do it for 5, 10, or 15, it's better than nothing. So this morning, I only had 10 minutes to do it before I had to jump on my group meditation. So I did it for 10 minutes. Then when you're done, you spit it out in a trash can, or if I'm outside on a walk, I'll spit it out in a bush. You never want to spit it out in your sink because you don't want to clog your drains. And then you just wash your mouth out with a little water and you're good to go. You're super refreshed. It's basically nature's original mouthwash.
So when you've done it, have you ever noticed anything in the oil itself? Do you see the toxins at all? Just so
No,
people.
but sometimes even if you brush your teeth and floss, the next morning when you oil pull, things will still come out that you thought you fully got out of your mouth. That's fascinating. What I do find is, I mean, I'm not a drinker, but when I first started oil pulling back in 2015, I would still occasionally go out for a few drinks. And if you wake up the next morning with any sort of hangover, oil pulling will get rid of it.
Wow.
It also activates your digestive system in the morning, so you always want to do it before you eat breakfast. And it also helps create bowel movements.
Ooh, that's cool. I wonder why it would. It's almost like a peristalsis reaction with the bowel movements, right? A little bit of peristalsis. Peristalsis is usually what happens to the body when you eat something, and then as soon as you eat something, it activates your colon, and then you feel like you want to eliminate. You want to have a bowel movement. But it almost sounds. Oops, my camera's leaving. It almost sounds like it's a bit of that, a little bit of peristalsis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so basically it's supporting you having detox in the mouth and detox in the colon. Like both ends get a cleaning first thing in the morning.
Very good. That's really, really cool. I love it. So, as a part of everyone's practice, if they're going to have any takeaways from anything that we talked about today, then maybe try some oil pulling in the morning, or even right now. Go to your bathroom and give it a try and see how it feels. And then let us know in the comments if you've tried it and if it felt as good as what Whitney's talking about. I'd really like to know. But
And I'd love to know if anyone's been using a Healy machine, a Rife machine, an amp coil machine, or one of those Tesla coil machines. If you have experience with using them, um, comment and let us know. And feel free to share if you recommend.
I have a client. It was years ago, but he talked about the Tesla coil machine, and he lived and died by that machine. He was so in love with it and everything that it was doing for him. So I got very, very positive feedback from that specific machine. He
No,
absolutely loved it.
One thing I wanted to mention to you, because you know I love affirmations. I love working with you on affirmations.
Hmm.
That is something that you first suggested to me when we started working together, and you helped guide me in creating affirmations that were really supportive. And I felt like they really helped propel me in a positive direction for my life. One thing the healing machine does is you can code positive affirmations into a frequency and send that into your body.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
crazy.
know.
You know what it reminds me of is it reminds me of Dr. Emoto and the How to Program
Ooh,
Water. Actually,
yes.
I actually was talking about that yesterday with and for those of you that didn't watch the live I did yesterday, I was talking about how Dr. Emoto is was a bit of a pseudoscientist, but he would freeze water from all over the world, and then he would do these experiments, emotional experiments on them to see what would happen under a microscope. And so on some of the on some of the samples he would write and say these things to the samples. I hate you, you make me sick, and then I love you and I'm grateful for you, and all kinds of things, just to see what it would look like under a microscope. So all of the hateful negative things, when he would look at the crystallization, he would freeze it, and when he would look at the crystallization, it looked positively destroyed and ugly, and it was nasty to look at. It looked like death. And then for the positive things, like the gratitude, the joy, I love you, all of that, I mean, the most beautiful crystalline structures you could possibly imagine. And they were all very different and specific depending on uh, what the intention was. So all of the gratitude ones looked kind of similar, and all of it's absolutely fascinating. And we're 70%
Fascinating.
water, so we should really be paying attention to these things, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you um you've heard about the experiments with plants and sound frequency as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and my mom always loves telling the story of her school's science experiment. How they had a group of plants where they played Bach, they played traditional classical music, and they had a group of plants where they played the Beatles, because my mom was growing up at the time where the Beatles were the biggest popular band. The plants that listened to the Beatles died, and the plants that listened to classical music thrived.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and they've already proven that plants sing along with the people that are singing with them. So they've had people play those that type of music, some sort of instrumental, something nice, or like an orchestration as opposed to rock music or something like that. I have nothing against rock music, but just for the record, I love rock music. But for the plants, it was they prefer classical, and when they placed a certain kind of a special microphone with the plant, they could hear it singing. They could hear it singing along and creating its own musical line to it. And when the music wasn't going on, it wouldn't do that. It would do other things. It'd make other noises. And they were showing how the plants would communicate with themselves. And they've actually proven that plants, if they watched one of their brothers or sisters murdered, that they could point out the murderer in a lineup. They actually did that. It's the craziest thing. But plants actually do have a consciousness.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the Goop conference in Los Angeles in 2019. And they had one of the sessions you could sit in is they had someone playing singing bowls. And then they had those wires hooked up to a ton of different plants, and then to a machine, and then everyone could have headphones so they could hear the song that was coming off the plants.
Oh my gosh.
And I wish I would have sat in that. I wish I could have gotten into that class and experienced that. It would have been amazing.
I would have loved to experience that too.
Yeah.
Anyone that works with plants too, and
Mhm.
trees, and anyone that just loves botany knows that the consciousness of plants is so important, and to be mindful of you know, when you take from a plant, and to ask permission, and to know how to hear the answer too. It's very it's an art form, truly, but it's definitely learnable.
Do you still harvest sage?
I do. I so I live on a property where I have 5 acres of sage. Like, it's just all sage for the most part, and I have plenty dried right now. But when I do harvest it, I'm very mindful. I always ask the plant. I never take more than the plant uh, would how it, I never damage the plant. So when I do harvest, I'm very careful about how I do it and where I do it, and I always ask. And you know, you just got to really pay attention. But so when I do harvest sage, and I wrap it myself, and often I'll give away that fresh sage during the holidays, you know, or birthdays or something like that, and people seem to really like it. And then I go through a ceremony where I bless it as well. So I'm very respectful towards plants. I absolutely love plants so much. They mean a lot to me. I planted 40 trees on the property I'm on, and they're like my little babies. If they're hurting in any way, I get really sad. I do everything I can to make sure that they're okay. So
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. So and as a chef, and working with all the produce that you work with, I know that you're really mindful about loving your fruits and vegetables, and the different types of herbs and things that you use as well. I think it's really important.
Well, you know, I love talking to the food.
Oh,
I can't
absolutely.
help it. I just can't help it. But also, there's a frequency when you touch the food. So when you walk up to pick the avocado or pick the apple, um, it's not just what you're looking at. It's not just the texture you're feeling. Um, you have to listen to your gut, and you know which one's for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're really paying attention, you're going to know. But yeah, all the plants have a specific frequency. Everything actually has its own frequency. And if you're sensitive enough, you know what to stay away from, and you know what you should be taking in. And it's yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome, and a privilege to know someone like you, Whitney, that actually works with food in that way, because it's so mindful, and it's a real honor, honestly. It's because you really pay attention to those details, and there's a lot of love and care in that, and that's really lacking and rare in this world. So it's a rare gift to be able to know someone that pays as much attention as you. So I'm grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. How was the little treat that I made you the other day? Did it turn out okay?
Yeah, it was lovely. So I went over to Whitney's place, and I don't really eat a lot, and she fed me one night, and that was awesome. And she gave me this dessert that I loved, and then she made me another one in the middle of the night. It was literally the middle of the night, because I ended up working really late on stuff for YouTube. Honestly, I was editing and stuff like that, and she just left this jar of dessert for me on her step, and I felt like I was I don't know. It was like I was undercover or something. It was because it was all dark in her neighborhood, and I was just looking around and just thinking, what are they going to say when I take this jar off of your step? But it's quite delicious. I actually have it right here in front of me.
Good. I'm glad it hit the spot. But I was so happy. I opened the door in the morning just to make sure that, you know, it was found by the proper person. And when I saw that it was gone,
Yeah,
I knew it was safely collected.
or a really creative squirrel took it, you know, or
Lucky
just
squirrel.
yeah, exactly. I mean, because it is made of part of it is almond butter. So
Well, there are very creative squirrels. My parents do have one in the backyard who walks up to the window and stares into the house.
really,
And then whenever my parents come outside, they'll approach my parents, and then they'll walk over to one of the plants and start eating it in front of them to let them know that no, 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 your garden is my garden. And It's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So there are very, very smart squirrels out there. So I wouldn't put it past one for getting into my treats I leave outside.
Wow. Well, at least it was in a glass jar. It was pretty safe, so that's awesome. Yay! I could talk to you all night, we're at about an hour and 14 minutes right now, almost an hour and 15. We should
Well,
probably say goodnight, but
you ask amazing questions. Thank you for letting me be a part of this with you. I'm so grateful.
I am grateful too. It's such an honor, and uh, I love being able to hear about all of these amazing podcast guests you keep having on. I don't know how you find them, but they're just so amazing. So if any of you watching haven't checked out Whitney's YouTube channel, please do, because really the stuff that she talks about is it's next level. It's really breaking the barrier there, and it's very mindful and it's very thoughtful, just like she is. So she's, as you might have noticed just from the way she talks, she really thinks about everything in such specificity, and her heart does the same thing. She cares so much about getting the right information to people. So please do check her out.
Well, I love learning from you. And if the people that are watching this episode tonight, I believe they love learning from you too. So you guys can visit the High Vibration Living podcast. And I have 2 episodes with Shamananda on there. So you can tap into those and hear more of her teachings and wisdom. And hopefully that can continue to support you on your health, wellness, and spiritual journey.
Absolutely. Well, I love you guys, and I hope you have a pleasant evening. And if you're watching this, as a recording, then, whatever time of day it is, may you be blessed. It's an honor to serve you and to give you information. And I will talk to you again probably in the next video. So I love you guys.